And finally, it took so long. Oh my gosh, man. I've been sitting here for like 20 minutes trying to get this freaking video to start. And finally, it took so long. Oh my gosh, man. I've been sitting here for like 20 minutes trying to get this freaking video to start. Alright, we're good for the volume, we're good for the everything else. Finally, okay. As I was saying in the last video, guys, before I was rudely interrupted by my trash ass internet that we have here, because the area we're in is like kind of a new-ish area in terms of like suburb-wise. So the internet is not so great. Anyways, as I was saying in the last video, that really just threw me off. I have to get like myself like back-centered, back center, because right now like my mind is like here, there, and everywhere. You know what I mean? My mind is not on the topic of the video as it was before. And that is exactly what these energies want to do. They want to throw you off. They want to take you off your path. They want to take you off your course. But I will not allow that. I do not stand for that. And I will fight for my right. Okay. So yeah, that's me getting myself centered. Brr, 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 ma. You know, like they do in High School Musical. Anyways, last thing I said in the last video, the first part of this video that got interrupted halfway through, was about me and the things I struggled with having ADHD, right? ADHD air quotes. And how I struggled with all the different textbook symptoms that you would normally expect from someone who has ADHD. And then I was going to go on to the certain things that I did that actually helped me. One of the first things that I mentioned before, which actually got cut out of the last video, was that I had to stop following or going by other people's rules and other people's different ways of doing things, okay? Because a lot of people will tell you this thing and that thing, like especially when you have ADHD. They might tell you you need more organization, you need more routine, which may actually be beneficial for a lot of people. However, not everybody will resonate with that. So, this is why I say that. And beyond ADHD or beyond any kind of neurodivergence, when it comes to you just being an individual as a person, you shouldn't really go by other people's rules either. You should make up your own rules. Do the things that actually help you. Because what works for someone else might not work for you. You know what I mean? So if you're constantly going by someone else's way of doing things, you may be leading yourself down a path that's not actually going to help you in the long run. Which is what I was struggling to do. Everyone told me that I should do this. Everyone told me that I should do that. Everyone told me that I needed to do that. When I went by a lot of the things that a lot of other people did or told me to do, it led to more frustration. It led to me feeling more angry at myself. It led to me feeling like a failure. All of that type of shit. Alright? Eventually, I had to realize that I had to make up my own rules. I had to make up my own system of how to do things, how to go about things. One of those things included me, actually, before I get into that, like an example of that would be a lot of people will tell you that you should focus on one thing. You should just focus on one thing and that you should just bar everything else, especially if you've got like something like ADHD. You'll probably feel more inclined to go for many different things because your interests are many. You know, you're interested in this thing, that thing, this thing, that thing. A lot of different things, right? A lot of people will say, oh no, you just need to pick one. And that's one of the things that I struggled with. That was actually one of the things that constantly caused me frustration and stopped me from actually pursuing anything at all. Because in my mind, I was like, okay, everyone says that I have to pick one. Everyone says that I have to pick something. And especially with the way the system is, you know, they say, oh, you should pick one career. You know, you should pick one job in order to pursue. But doing that or trying to do that only led me to feeling frustrated, only led me to feeling like a failure. So I eventually came to the conclusion, you know what? I'm just gonna have to I'm just gonna have to pick as many as I fucking want. You know what I mean? I didn't want to sit here and pick one. I'm gonna pick whatever the fuck I want. So I decided to just delve into whatever the fuck I wanted. And if that changed from one week to the other, I accepted that. I acknowledged that. But I also still stuck to the first thing that I initially wanted to do. Right? So for me, started off as freestyling, started off as producing music. I really wanted to learn that. So I decided to stick to it. And on the weeks and the days where I decided that I actually wanted to stick to something else, I still stuck to originally wanting to produce music. I never stopped doing that. I simply put a pause on it. You know what I mean? And a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, no, that's a waste of time because then you're gonna end up putting more energy into one and then another, and then you end up getting slower results because you're working on multiple different things. You're spreading your energy thin." I haven't actually exhibited or seen that from myself. If anything, me jumping from one thing to the other and then keep on going back, and it's allowed me to actually create a network of different interests, a network of different things that all actually end up meeting in the middle and helping me, because it's like how people say, you probably heard some people who do one thing, right? But then they do something else that is completely unrelated, seemingly, in order to help them with that one thing that they do. It's the same kind of concept for me. You know, I have many different interests, but I actually utilize them to all help my main interests, right? Which is artistic things, creative things, right? So I use any different artistic thing, any artistic skill that I like, and I just streamline them and help. One helps the other, the next one helps that one. You know what I mean? So my ability to be able to produce music has helped me in my ability to be able to freestyle and to write music. I actually never used to be able to write music. I couldn't sit down and write music, right? It was a struggle for me. When I realized that I had to use my strengths, I used freestyling because that was something that came natural to me, right? I used freestyling, and that's actually my technique now of how I actually write music. If you check out my song, Rise Above by Marstella on YouTube, I'm 99% sure I wrote that from freestyling. I can't remember exactly, but that's how I write now. And that's the one thing that's actually helped me, and the one thing that I've noticed the most results in. Sorry guys, excuse the background noise. But that's actually helped me to be able to expand and grow in many different ways, as opposed to just what's it called? As opposed to just focusing on one different area, and then I ended up losing a lot of time because I was so hyper focused on the one area, you know what I mean? And then I was neglecting my other interests, neglecting my other passions.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
So yeah, I neglected my other passions, guys. And then that didn't help me either. Hope you guys can still hear me. Because they're freaking loud. But it's all good. People have lives. People live. Okay? People live. If anybody didn't know, people live. But if I was in my private space, you know, different story. I'd be like, get the fuck. But because, you know, I'm not in my private space at the moment because the internet's trash. Currently. Not cute. Not cute, guys. Not cute. So, what a lot of people will tell you is to do the opposite of that. They'll be like, no, you need to streamline your energy. You shouldn't spread yourself thin and jump from one thing to the other. No, sorry about it. That's why I say, bar every single freaking rule that other people say to you that should work for you, especially if it's something that frustrates you, especially if it's something that you struggle with. Why the fuck would you focus on something that you're struggling with that's actually frustrating you more than actually helping you to achieve your goals? That makes no sense whatsoever. And that didn't make sense for me. You know what I mean? Even this rule right here, you know, you may be the type of person, other people's rules may be better for you. So bar my rule, you know, to bar other people's rule. Bar that too, you know what I mean? Like, but it's still, you're technically going by my rule. That's why I say, when I say things, I try to make it as broad and as expansive for all people to understand. So even if you don't have ADHD, which is the topic of this video, you'll still be able to get wisdom from this video. Because I come from a more expanded space. I've got a greater awareness, and therefore I can give it in a way that is applicable to all. You know what I mean? And that's how you know someone's actually truly in a wise or knowledgeable space, as opposed to people who tell you something and then it doesn't work for you. You know, it may just work for another person. When I tell you something in my video, it'll work for everyone. It doesn't matter who you are in this video. You'll be able to apply in some way, shape, or form the things that I'm telling you, and it'll be able to help you in some way. Even if what you're saying goes against what I'm actually telling you. Like I just said before, you're actually still following what I said, which was to bar everyone's rules, including my own. So, that's rule number one. That's number one, like A1, that helped me to actually heal, as people say, heal my ADHD, which wasn't really an actual case. I just learned how to utilize my strengths from what they call ADHD, pardon me guys, and minimize my weaknesses. So now it doesn't seem as though I have raging ADHD. You know what I mean? Unless you're looking at certain characteristics that I exhibit in terms of hyperactivity, that's a different story. But people can be hyperactive and still not have ADHD. So that's not really a problem for me. You know what I mean? I don't see that. That's a non-factor, mate. So yeah. I don't know why I said as opposed to. That does not make sense in the context of this conversation, mate. So yeah. Another thing that helped me, right? Just sort of ties into the first rule, you know. But another thing that helped me is when I was delving into my certain creative outlets and my hobbies, right? Not saying that creativity is for everyone if you've got ADHD, but fine-tuning or delving into your own special interests, as they would call it, you know what I mean? In the clinical sense, they'll say you have a special interest, right? Put it plainly, like you're just doing something that you love, okay? You're putting your time into something that you love. A lot of people will try to tell you, oh, you need to do this in order to get, you need to do this in order to get by, you need to do that in order to get by. But if your brain works in a different way, you can't actually do that and then only do that, and then you'll be able to get by and you'll be able to develop a sense of like stability from that. You actually have to hone in on your certain special interests or the things that you love to do, because that's actually what's going to, as someone who's got ADHD, you've got difficulties focusing and paying attention to certain things. So why would you try to force yourself to focus on something if you already struggle to focus on things? You're trying to force yourself to focus on something that you have no interest whatsoever in. Again, it ties back to the first rule that I was saying. If you're experiencing constant frustration, bullshit, that is not something that is necessarily for you. You know what I mean? Obviously, in some cases, you might feel like you have to do things that are not for you. But if you can avoid it at all costs. You know what I mean? As much as you can. Because you do not want to manifest and create more of that energy and build more of that bubble in your reality. And therefore, you're going to create more of a problem, and your ADHD symptoms are going to come through even stronger because you're focusing on your weaknesses and expanding those rather than focusing on your strengths as someone who has ADHD or is neurodivergent or is whatever, anything under the sun. You know, you might be a neurotypical, but you still exhibit something that can be able to relate and utilize some of the wisdom and knowledge that I'm utilizing right now. So, streamlining or delving into your special interests or the things that you love, the things that don't frustrate you, and honing in on those and doing as much of that as possible. If you only have 3 hours a day, use those 3 fucking hours. You know, I had some moments when I was working at KFC. This is what actually made me start fasting. I stopped eating during the day because for me, it was more of a priority and more important for me to actually do my creative outlets, which helped me to heal my mind and helped me to actually heal my soul, right? Which is just another freaking term for your solar space, your spirit, right? Helped me to heal these things because ideally or realistically, food wasn't really helping me that much. Yeah, food is good for you if you want nutrients, you know what I mean? But I didn't actually need it for energy. I could easily go to work and still have enough energy, right? But what would actually really debilitate me is if I didn't do my creative shit. So I had to stop because I had only so much time from working from 4:30 to 12, sometimes 1, sometimes 2, sometimes even 3 o'clock in the morning, right? I had to come back home and I had to make sure that I did not eat when I was waking up in the AM, because that was just a detriment to me. It was not helping me. It was not helping me to grow. It was not helping my ADHD mind, right? It was not helping none of that. Now, I'm not saying sit here and starve yourself. This is something that applied for me, and this is something that worked for me. If it works for you, then good. You know what I mean? Take it as it is. But just take that example and apply it in any way that you can for, beyond starving yourself, beyond skipping meals. You know what I mean? I'm just talking about my own experience because, that's what I know. So, for me, that was one of the things that helped me. I had to streamline and prioritize my own interests, the things that I love doing. Because if anything, it was more frustrating for me when I would make food, had to clean up, and then I had to end up going to work without even putting in like 30 minutes of my creative gifts and talents. That was a no-no for me. That was my lifeline. So I had to prioritize where it was necessary. So, that was the priority that I chose. And nowadays, I'm able to put in more time into my creative gifts and talents, and even starting to earn a little bit of money from that, But at the moment, ideally, I would want more, but, I can still earn that little bit of money from my gifts and talents that I've actually put energy work and time into and effort into. You know what I mean? So, no matter what situation you're in, always prioritize the things that you love and utilize that to the best of your ability. If you have only 5 minutes a day, I used to do that as well because, like, my friend, she used to work a lot, and she used to say she really wanted to meditate. But, if you wake up and you have a cup of coffee, right? You get ready for work, blah, blah, blah. You could easily sacrifice that cup of coffee for 5 minutes of meditation, 10 minutes of meditation, So, in my eyes, there's really no excuse when it comes to life because you can always squeeze or sacrifice one thing for the other. It just depends on you as an individual whether or not you have the motivation to do that. So, that's number 2. You know what I mean? Number 2 is ideally prioritizing everything that you actually love and minimizing as many things that frustrate you and aggravate your ADHD mindset, right? So, number 2, right? Also, number 3, if you want, this can apply and not apply to some people, right? Developing your own sense of structure and your own sense of routine. And a lot of the time that might go against some people's other sense of structure. Some people's idea of routine and structure may be different from another person. So it's important to actually develop your own idea and way of structure and routine. For me, it wasn't the same way that other people could do. For some people, it may be you wake up at a certain time, you do things the same way every single day. So you do this in the AM, you do this in the PM, you do this in the middle of the day, you do that. You know what I mean? It doesn't really matter about that because that can be different for everyone. Some people do not go by rigid rules, do not go by rigid structure. But if you have some form of structure, that's what matters. It's not about whether or not it's adhered to every single day. Some days I skip things and I don't do things at all, that I would normally do on a regular basis, especially me being an earth sign. I thrive in structure. I thrive in organization. I thrive in more of a routine-based setting. okay? But you need to understand too that it's important to jump in and out of these things. Again, like in my other videos, I talk about jumping in and out of certain forms and concepts, because when you get stuck into one, then you're creating like a mental cage for yourself, and then that'll lead to you feeling physically restricted in your life. So then you'll feel like you can't actually branch out and expand in ways that would really actually benefit you. Sorry about the background noise, guys. So, when it comes to the what's it called? You know what? I might need to start filming and then just uploading instead of doing lives, because this is not ideal for lives, but who cares? I prefer lives at the moment. That's why I usually do lives. Just the being put on the spot, and just like being able to kind of just free flow is really, really nice energy that I like to be in. So, yeah, when it comes to that, jumping in and out of those forms, not getting stuck into those rigid forms, not imprisoning yourself physically. So, yeah, a lot of people will say, you need to do this, you need to do that, like, you need this certain routine. For me, I only needed certain few things. One was exercise, staying moving. And I actually seen a psychologist talking about that. Staying moving, okay, keeping moving, keeping the blood flowing, all right? That's one of your main, like, lifesavers as someone who's, like, neurodivergent, or even just people in general. If you are just a person in general, it's good to keep your blood moving, keep your momentum going, right? When you stay still, there's a Maori quote for that, actually. Bro, don't mind, guys. Do not mind. Please excuse the fucking chaos in the background. This is what happens when the universe, or not the universe, when certain energies want to try and put blockages in the way, and they exhibit themselves through many different forms, through people, places, things, the internet, like all types of shit. And then it ends up trying to jump into your way, so that then you feel like, oh no, maybe I should stop doing this. Maybe I should do this another day. No, I do not think that way. And nothing or nobody will make me think that way. I will keep doing what I'm going to do. And if that means that I have to talk, even when there's stuff going on in the background, I'm going to have to do that. You know what I mean? But stopping the video and stopping what I did originally planned out and set out to do, that is not an option for me. No, bye-bye. So, when it comes to, that's like my favorite little one-liner there. So when it comes to, um, see, now I lost my train of thought. That's exactly what happens when shit like this happens. Distractions. But it is Gemini season, so Gemini season, a lot of distractions will come in your way, a lot of certain things will try to insert themselves into your space, into what you're familiar with. And you just have to roll with the punches. You just have to keep going. And if you don't, well, then you just fell victim to an external circumstance. And I don't let the external override my shit. I override the external with my shit. You know what I mean? So I'm on top. I'm the big dog, bitch. I'm the big boss. So yeah, when it comes to, let me see if I can figure out what the fuck I was thinking about. Okay, so maybe I can just go back to the video. And I was talking about, just go back to the video. I do not think that way. And don't mind, guys. you know, you need to do this, you need to do that. Like, you need this certain routine. For me, I only needed certain few things. One was exercise. Yeah, okay. I remember where I was at now. So yeah, one was exercise. That was one of the things that I had to do. Two, always incorporating some form of my creative gift and talent, right? Three, what's it called? My practices, my spiritual practices. That was my routine. Anything else was just an add-on. So, you know, I struggled with dysfunction. I struggled with so many different things, right? When I incorporated those things for my routine, instead of focusing on, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, like, you know, certain responsibilities that are actually really difficult for a lot of people to knuckle down and do, I focused on what I knew helped me, what I knew was actually benefiting me, and also what I knew I actually loved and actually made me feel good and led to less frustration. And what happened was that ended up pouring out into other areas. So now I actually have a better routine, and I don't actually necessarily have a routine like that, but I developed better skills and better ability to be able to tackle my other shit, you know, like maintaining the house, like keeping things clean. Now I have a routine. I literally make my bed every single day. Some days, you know, I might feel lazy. I don't want to do it. I don't do it. But it's a luxury now. It's an option that I have. It's not something that I struggle to constantly push myself to actually do. And that's the difference. So the difference was that I actually had my own routine, had my own form of structure, and all that structure energy itself ended up pouring out into all areas of my life. And now I have more structure to actually work with because I built it up in my own space first, my own energy first, which was doing the things that I actually knew were benefiting me and actually helped me to create a better space for myself mentally and physically, which is all the stuff that I just mentioned. So yeah, those are pretty much the main things, the main three things that actually helped me to build up my strength in terms of my ADHD and then dissipate a lot of my weaknesses. Now, I really wanted to show you guys my creations as well, but I think I will save that for another video and I'll probably film it off live and then post it like that. I think that will be a lot better, a lot cleaner, a lot more organized and structured, you know what I mean? But yeah, those are pretty much the main things. If I can think of anything else, I might make a part 3 or 4, whatever the heck. But I'll leave it at this. And yeah, that's pretty much how I went from ADHD to creating daily. Alright, and now I feel more free. And now I don't even feel like I have ADHD. I do not feel debilitated. I do not feel like at a crossroads. I do not feel stuck. I do not feel incapable. You know what I mean? Anything you put that word to or anything you attribute ADHD to, I do not feel those things. Okay, if anything, I feel a lot more capable than a lot of people who do not have ADHD. And that's when you know you fucking you clocked that shit, babe. You clocked that shit. You fucking hit a home run. And I hit many home runs in my life. And I'm hitting many more, alright? So, hope you can hit some fucking home runs in your life. Because we just want to kick goals, mate. Don't mind me. Do not mind me. Actually, mind me. No jokes. Anyways, I'll see you guys for the next video.